Welcome to Boot to Boom Now, the #1 live streaming show, the #1 live streaming entrepreneur show, taking you from bootstrap to booming. We are here every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we are here every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. We are here every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern to get your PayPal popping, your business booming, and your life and your relationships to explode.
Boom!
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Boot to Boom, the #1 live streaming show taking entrepreneurs from bootstrap to booming. We're here live every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. We're here to get your PayPal popping, your business booming, and your life and relationships to explode. And as always, we have an amazing show for you today. So make sure, I told you this last week, and some of y'all hit me up after and said, "Hey, Laura, you were right." Make sure you get your pen and your pad, because we always have amazing guests and they always give you some wonderful, amazing nuggets, words of wisdom. Last week we had some explosive atom bombs. Like we got some phenomenal information last week. So make sure you get your pen and pad. I give you time to do that because I give you all the housekeeping in the beginning. So get yourself together, get your popcorn, get your water, whatever you do, whatever snacks you like while you're watching us, go ahead and do that now while I'm giving you all the housekeeping. We're happy to see you again. And a few things, make sure if you're not already getting, we're in Facebook. You can join us, Boot #2 Boom, Entrepreneur's Journey. Of course, we want to see you in the chat. So we are monitoring the chat. So if you are in the chat, say hello to us. Let us know where you are, where you're coming from. You know, how you found out about us. Did you find us from YouTube? Did you find us from Facebook, from Twitter? Are you in our YouTube group? How did you find us? We want to hear from you. And of course, as always, we have our resource list available to you. We created the resource list just for you because, again, we are all about supporting our entrepreneurs. We want to make sure that you are successful in every aspect of your business. So you can grab that. We update it each and every week. And we have literally provided over $10,000 worth of resources from every kind of business that you can think of, products, services, different things that are really going to enhance your business to really help you to grow in your business that will support you as the business owner and support your business. So go ahead and grab that. And of course, while you're at it, make sure if you haven't already, go ahead below, hit that subscribe link. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can be informed. We're here every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, but sometimes, we're business owners, we forget, right? Or there's things going on. So if you go ahead and subscribe, you'll get that notification. It'll pop up on your phone, on your computer, and you can make sure you go ahead and join us live so you can ask your questions and your comments and all of that stuff that you don't quite get on the replay. So go ahead and do that. And lastly, sharing is caring. So go ahead, take that link, take it over to Twitter, Facebook. Go ahead and share that link. Let everybody know that we're live, and let everybody know that today, if you are a Black-owned business, if you want to support Black-owned businesses, if you just have questions about, why it's really important that you support Black-owned businesses, you definitely want to tune into today's episode. So go ahead, share it out, let everybody know that we are here. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So, of course, I am going to introduce you to my amazing co-host, Jessica. How are you doing tonight?
I am happy.
You sure? You sure? It was like a pause. It was like a,
I was going to say something else, and I was like, say that. That's not nice. So I'm happy. I'm here. I'm alive. Entrepreneurship is wonderful.
Listen, are y'all convinced? Because I ain't convinced. I don't know who she's talking to. But I mean, is that the face of happiness? Y'all know, if you watch us every week, you know we have fun here. Yes, we're going to educate you. You're going to learn a lot, but we're also going to have fun too. So I'm sure some of y'all had those days where you're like, yeah, I'm happy, but wait, am I really happy? Hold on. Let me think about that for a moment. But I'm
when you're an entrepreneur, you have those ups and down times. You know, when you're an entrepreneur, you have ups and downs. And you're like, some days you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. It's amazing. I love it. And then some days you're just like, I think I need to get a job. Like, I swear to God, like, I'm just, you know, it's just everything seems to be going wrong. You got things that are going on. But then also in the back of your mind, you also know that you really don't want to do that. You really don't have to go in there and have to deal with somebody else's problems. And it's better to even deal with your problems and issues than to go and deal with somebody else's headaches, right? So I think that's just the space and the place that I'm in today. Tomorrow can be completely different. Tomorrow I can be on an absolute high and like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be an entrepreneur. This is wonderful and awesome. But today it's just been one of those days where I've just been like, boo. So that's where I'm at.
But I love it because that's why we do this show, right? That is why we do this show,
exactly.
because we do the lows and we want you to be successful. And we know what it takes. We know how difficult it can be some days to really be an entrepreneur and what it really takes to be successful. So that's why we're here every week. That's why we're sharing what we know. That's why we're bringing you phenomenal guests that are sharing their wisdom. So for those of you who might be dealing with that tonight, we got a great guest for you, because not only is she going to be talking about, why it's important to buy black, but she can also give you a lot of wisdom and insight into how to really be successful in your business. So when you have those slumps, you have systems and things in place that you're like, you know what? Today wasn't the greatest day, but I know that I have some systems and things in place that are really going to help me out. So that's what we're here for.
Exactly.
So I'm glad that you said that. And I'm glad that you thought about it. Because how many times, right, you ask somebody how they're doing and they say, I'm fine, and they're really not fine. They don't even think about it. They say fine.
Yep. And I'm trying to get away from doing that all the time. You know, I'm trying to step in and be very authentic and very real and just in my space and in my place and actually allowing myself to feel what it is that I'm feeling. You know, if I'm feeling frustration, if I'm feeling anger, whatever it is, it doesn't mean I need to act on it, right? I'm not going to go out there and act crazy, right? Beat somebody down. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take a deep breath. When someone asks me how I'm feeling, I'm going to be truthful and say, you know what? It's not the best day, but I do know that I'm alive. And that's what I tell a lot of people. When I'm not having the best day, I'm like, I'm alive. That's something to be grateful for. And it actually brings life into perspective, right? Being alive is something to be grateful for. May not be the best day. Of course, I would like more money, and my Tesla is still waiting for me to come get it. But I am here, and I'm alive. So, anywho, Ava Laura, I'm going to let you go on.
And I'm here to tell you, just hold out on that, because my Tesla is coming.
Yeah.
It has been on my vision board, but now I have a way. Anyway, but that's another story.
I love it.
I'm telling you, it works. It works. It works. It works. So, yes. But anyway, so let me tell you about the amazing Jessica. She is an online business consultant that has over a decade in assisting SME business owners throughout the digital media sector. Throughout her 25 years of practice, she has worked with well-known Wall Street and Fortune 500 companies, television celebrities, healthcare providers, leading public figures, and community leaders. Jessica, aka Jaw, believes that she is here. She has a purpose to help you, and you have a purpose to help others. And she's all about helping you to show up and show out within the digital media sector. So if you've ever wanted to know how to start a show like Boot to Boom, how to start a podcast, anything related to digital media, you definitely want to talk to Jessica. She's your girl. You can contact her at bit.ly/boot2. Oh God, I'm about to say Boot to Boom. Go. See, that's why all these twos, they running in my head. bit.ly/talk2 jaw.
See, and that's why I live for this show. I tell you, one of my favorite things, because when I'm having one of those days, I can come on here and then we fill off each other's energy, and then I'm good again. I'm happy again. I'm laughing again. Because I tell you, today has been a doozy. However, her messing up on my bio, I love it. I absolutely love it.
And you were gonna let me do it. You were just gonna let me do it. I was like, oh wait, no, that's Boot to Boom. Hold on a second. No,
wait. I'm sitting there going. So now let me tell you guys about my wonderful, amazing co-host, who is also the founder of Boot to Boom, Ava Laura. So Ava Laura is an internationally celebrated intuitive consultant and life coach who takes her clients from whole to wholeness in their life, relationships, and business. She guides them through a powerful healing process that helps them discover who they are, who they wish to be, and how to get there. If now's the time for you to live a freedom-focused life, detox yourself of limiting beliefs that no longer serve you, and create an unrecognizable reality, then Ava Laura is the guide you've been waiting for. So you can get a consultation today by emailing Ava Laura at avalaura.com. And actually, Ava Laura is also a part of our popping topic today. Our popping topic for the day is clarity in your business. So like I was telling you guys, I have times in my business, and I think we all do, right? Which is why we need to seek clarity from others around us, and why you need to have a supportive network, and why you need to have a coach or someone that's mentoring you, so on and so forth, right? I didn't get to call nobody today, all right? So, but you, on the other hand, have us that you can definitely call on. So you need clarity in your business. You need to know what you need to do, what's your next steps, so on and so forth. Or if you just have one of those clients that you're just like, what planet did you come from and how did you get my phone number? One of those, you know what I'm talking about. You need clarity because your messaging may be off. You may not be reaching out to the right, market. You may be, saying a message that actually is completely off. And that's why you're attracting the people that you definitely would never, ever work with in a million years. So what you need is clarity to do that. So we are offering a clarity session with our wonderful Ava Laura. So in order to pick that up, for a low price of $49.99, just email us and say, Ava Laura, I need clarity in the subject line. So you can email us at boot2boom@gmail.com, and you can grab that for just $49.99. And tonight, our wonderful guest, I'm sure, is going to drop some more bombs for you. So you definitely are going to just have a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience here on this live stream as well. So definitely email us if you'd like to go ahead and get that. But also, like Ava Laura said, make sure you have your paper and your pen ready so you can go ahead and get all of these nuggets and jewels and biscuits and gravy, everything that we're going to be giving you tonight, because we have a great loaded show for you all. So Ava Laura?
I thought you were about to jump into the human song. Biscuits, gravy, like gravy. It's like everything we got tonight.
I got green tomatoes, legs, business. Business consultation. Oh my gosh. All right. So yes, he able to make this. No, I wasn't. I'm sorry. I apologize. I was just trying to get into our guest tonight.
Well, speaking of biscuits and gravy, no. I mean, we're talking about buying black. I mean, how fitting is that? But anyway, all right, guys. So we have a really amazing guest who I had the pleasure of being on her show, and we, heard her at PNC Power Networking Conference, and she is phenomenal. Our guest tonight.
Hey, Laura, I'm interrupting because I gotta tell them she dropped a bomb while she was on stage that she said. Ava Laura, you're going to have to correct me, so I can't remember. Okay, I go to sleep at night with what she said, not with clarity, but I feel good going to sleep at night knowing that I did my part by even my pillowcase is made by a black person. And I was like, that was just so bomb. I summed it up in my own words. She said it a little bit differently, but I mean, that is so bomb. How many times have we gone out there? I'm sorry?
I was about to say, fortunately, she here to speak for herself, to say it correctly. But yes, that she did say that.
That's what I heard coming out of her mouth. That's where I interpreted the message to be sent to me. So, but it was so bomb the way she said it. So you guys are really in for a treat. So I apologize. Go ahead, Ava Laura, but I wanted to make sure I told you guys that before I forgot.
Yeah, so our guest tonight is Nataki Kamban. She is a small business growth strategist and consultant. She works with entrepreneurs to grow businesses into profitable, self-sustaining enterprises through marketing, management, operations, and accounting services. And also in 2014, she was appointed as the spokesperson for Let's Buy Black 365 Black Economic Empowerment Movement, where change makes sense. Cha-ching, cha-ching. And since then, she has been an invited guest on dozens of radio programs, national conferences like PNC, and served as a liaison for national and international partnerships. Please join us in welcoming Nataki Kamban. Woo! Welcome, Nataki, to Boot to Boom. How are you doing tonight?
I am Blacknificent. How are you?
I love
I
it.
might have to take that. I'm doing great. I am phenomenal.
My parents, my family had a bookstore in Raleigh, North Carolina, and my parents came up with that. It was called Blacknificent Books and More. And Blacknificent was the representation that said, we are more, as a people, we are more than magnificent. We are Blacknificent. So I always replace the word magnificent anytime I can with Blacknificent. So feel free to use it as much as you want.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So that's actually an interesting segue into my question. But just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you became an entrepreneur.
Yeah, a little bit about me. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. Everyone in my family is an entrepreneur. So mother's a psychologist, past president of the National Association of Black Psychologists, father, and she's had a private practice and mental health agency, counseling and all that good stuff. And father, of course, had Blacknificent books, is an author. My brother is the architect behind the Black social network, Abibi to Mikasa, which is one of the things featured on the banner behind me. They get like 30,000 unique visitors, I think it is, a week on there. Sister is a pediatrician in private practice. So entrepreneurship is just in our family. If we go way, way back, my great-great-grandfather actually worked with Marcus Garvey in the Back to Africa movement. So just come from a family that has always been not just entrepreneurial for the sake of entrepreneurial and for chasing stuff, but entrepreneurship in an understanding of what it is to be able to create community and create resources and be effective in that sense.
Wow. So did you ever see yourself doing anything else, or was this like how most people's like, I just knew I was going to college, or I just knew this is what I was going to do because that's what I saw?
Not so much. I thought I was going to be a teacher, worked in a summer camp one year and was like, oh my God, these kids are horrible. It was like, teaching is not for me. But even when I was little, I used to sell things. When I was in like third grade, I was selling, there was a vegan bubble gum that I sold to kids. I think it was like, it came in a pack of 4, and it was like 25 cents. And I sold each gumball for $1. So, I'd always done, the markup was crazy. I actually cleaned up on that. I was always selling something. That was like in second grade, I had painted these little rocks gold, and I told people they were gold, and I wasn't trying to be malicious. I really thought that by painting them with a yellow marker that made them gold. And my teacher was like, "You're scamming people." And I was like, "No." But it was nice because that experience really taught me ethics in business. So at the age of 7. So, wow. But no, I got into entrepreneurship when I actually started my first business in college. I started a vegan catering company out of my dorm room. And it was highly successful. I went to UNC Chapel Hill. Don't tell them I had any legal catering operation in my dorm room. It was very substantial. I had several convection ovens, several hot plates. I had a full staff, and it was catering and takeout. And so a lot of my professors were clients of mine. I was catering at fraternities and all these different places. And then also had clients at North Carolina Central and Duke. So, I mean, it was a very lucrative operation. And as I was doing that, and because I started a vegetarian club in college, I had originally thought about doing environmental business communications and wanting to do consulting about how to integrate environmentally sound practices into your business. I particularly like that doing that is very green and eco-friendly, but from a business standpoint, there are ways to do it where it just makes good bottom line sense. And I wanted to pitch it from a bottom line sense standpoint, since again, most people are not going to do things out of the goodness of their heart, even if it's great for the planet. But as I was doing the catering and being a part of the vegetarian club that I started, I realized that I liked it more than I liked my major, and said, well, yikes. I wish that instead of doing an interdisciplinary studies major in environmental business communications, that I had done more of just business. But I didn't want to, restart. So long story short, I took UNC offers something called the Carolina Business Institute, which is sort of a crash course in marketing, management, accounting, finance, and operations. And I went to that program with the thought of launching my restaurant and catering company. Fast forward. So the proceeds, it was not a cheap program at all coming out of UNC. It was offered through the graduate studies program. The proceeds from my catering company actually financed that and the start of New Business Solutions, my consulting company. So that's how I got started. And it really took off because I had written this 150-page business plan. I had shopped it around. I got great feedback. There were a couple of financial institutions that actually, lending institutions that actually got my permission to use my business plan as a model business plan for what they were doing. Because they said, especially since I was trying to do a restaurant, they thought it was interesting. Because I said, a lot of people come in here with a napkin that says, I make food, people got to eat, give me money. And they were like, wow, you've actually done like market research and, you've got all these plans. And so my first clients actually came because as I was interviewing other restaurant owners about their best practice, how do they decide what items are on the menu, what's more profitable, how do they change up the menu based on the profitability of each menu item, how do they source their products and determine which vendor, and how do they negotiate. And most of the restaurateurs I was talking about were like, what are you talking about? I don't do any of that. I make food, whatever people don't buy, I eat. That's it. And so, several of them were like, help me do what you're talking about because I've never even heard of it. What be a website? No. And then, they referred me to florists who they worked with for, different catering products and funeral homes and different things. And it just took on a life of its own from there. And so originally New Business Solutions, the company, was conceived of with the word new being Nubian, because I thought of it being an enterprise that would help Black entrepreneurs grow and scale their businesses to profitability. It has been an enterprise that has helped people scale the business, but we were talking earlier that I don't tend to have a lot of Black clients, and I'm hoping to change that soon. But it's been an incredible journey. I've worked with rocket scientists, engineers, people in technology, obviously the restaurant industry. I obtained a contractor's license for one client. I've a construction client. I've just grown businesses from various fields throughout the years, and it's been great.
So I think that's really interesting, particularly because you are the spokesperson for 365. By Black 365. So why do you think that is, that you don't have a lot of Black clients, and what are some of the mistakes that you see a lot of Black businesses make?
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually have an article coming out with that very title about some of the mistakes, and I think it's probably something that you can sometimes relate to within your healing center practice. One of the biggest things is feeling like there's something wrong with asking for and receiving help and expertise from someone who has either been there, done that, or has the knowledge to catapult you, light years ahead of where you are. What I see more often than not in our community is people say, I'm gonna go take a class and learn how to do accounting. I'm gonna take a class and try and learn how to do marketing. I'm gonna take a class, I'm studying this, I'm studying that. And their counterparts are coming to people like me and saying, hey, Nataki, I'm gonna pay you $10,000 for you to turn my business into $1 million operation in the next 6 months. And so, and I hear a lot the philosophy, well, I'm gonna start selling stuff, and when I make money off of what I'm selling, then I'll use that to try and scale the business. And that model starts you off on such a rocky footing. It ends up being more trial by error. It ends up putting you stressed. It ends up really chaining you to the business in the same way that you are with employment, and it doesn't set you up for actual entrepreneurship. It turns you more into a lifestyle business, which may produce some income, but it doesn't really set up the plane in such a way that you can actually layer on competent and qualified staff and do all these different kinds of things. And so I think, to summarize the answer to your question, it's really the difference in approach. I often tell clients or prospective clients, if they're like, I have some people who are like, well, can I just pay you like $200 and you just help me do something? And my advice is often, if you have a job and you have a good paying job, stay there maybe for 2 to 5 years. Maybe that's not what you want to hear, because some people are like, oh, I want to start right now. But, your paycheck is the best way to finance your new business. And instead of trying to conceive of how I'm going to start a business and not invest in it and expect it to give me a return on an investment without me making an initial investment, really think about how staying in a job for maybe 2 years that you don't like will give you the seed money to start your business in a way that will catapult you 10 years ahead of where you would ever get if you, kind of winged it with no help, no expertise, no guidance, and no actual fundamentals in place.
I think that's great advice. And as the show is Boot to Boom, Entrepreneur's Roadmap from Bootstrap to Booming, because that's how typically most of us start off, is bootstrapping it. And I think that you brought a really, really, go through the school of hard knocks and just winging it and trying to figure it all out. Take some money, invest in your business to learn all these things, set yourself up first, and then you already are setting yourself up for success, as opposed to just trying to figure it all out and, go through all the highs and the lows, and, a lot of times losing momentum and just so many things when you do it that way. So I think that's an excellent point.
Right. It's interesting. I met with someone earlier. Well, it's only Tuesday, but I met with someone yesterday who was talking about, and I never use anyone's names or anything, so everything's confidential and anonymous. But he was talking about that. There's also a challenge when you have companies that have a high dollar revenue product. So when you start getting things in the construction industry, or just different things where, maybe you have a product that's $30,000 or you have a $100,000 product. One mistake that people make is just thinking, wow, I just got $100,000, and thinking that number somehow translates to how much you actually have, and not realizing that it is just as easy to lose $100,000 as it is to lose $100. And I've had, I've consulted for people. In fact, I had someone earlier this year who brought me in to start to look at accounting first, which is usually always where I start, by understanding the numbers, by understanding profitability, by understanding the story that is told through your financial statements. I can then advise on the staffing problems. I can then advise on all these other things, and know how to triage which fire we're going to put out first, so that we can get a system going over here and then start working on the other systems, sometimes consecutively, oftentimes simultaneously. But long story short, I was working, or someone brought me in. He bragged that he's a $7 million company. They want to grow to $10 million this year. This is January. And I asked, is that gross or is that net, the 7 million? And he said, oh, that's gross. And I was like, well, what is the net? And he was like, well, I don't know, which is really shocking because every business at any point in time should be able to say what your net is. If you don't know your net, then you really have no idea what your business is doing. And you don't know what story to tell. And you can't make the type of power decisions from a management perspective that really thrust you from someone who is a small business owner to someone who is truly an entrepreneur. I did his books, and come to find out, they netted negative $250,000, and they were in the construction industry. And the example that I give for what that actually equates to, because he didn't have systems in place, because he didn't have someone with the expertise, he knew construction, and that's where most people are. They know how to do the one thing that they do, but everything else is kind of a different story. I said that was the equivalent of him sitting on his butt for 364 days last year, just before midnight, taking a trash can full of $250,000, lighting it on fire, and throwing it off the roof of his house. Like, he could have sat on his butt all year and had the same outcome. And so originally he, was like, I don't know if I can afford consulting. But the reality is, if you can't afford the help of someone who can make you profitable and get you on solid footing, then you probably need my help more than you think.
Wow. That is very true. If you can't afford what's going to help you, you really need help.
Exactly. Yeah.
Makes sense to me. But,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, that's not how a lot of us think.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think, because it's like you said, it really is an investment. It is. It's an investment. And I think, I think that's a great point in terms of, particularly, for Black businesses, is that we don't look at making an investment in our business. And so therefore it does not grow, or is not successful the way that we want it to be.
And I think that's the real difference. And again, I usually separate, and not in a negative way, but I think there is a difference when people wake up and decide they want to stop being someone who owns a business that is running them. In fact, right on my website, there's a little quiz you can take on newbusinesssolutions.com. And new is spelled, again, new is in Nubian, or new is in numerous, newbusinesssolutions.com. there's a quiz that says, are you running your business or is your business running you? And in taking that quiz, it tends to be very eye-opening because people are like, wow, you know, how is this different than working for someone else? In fact, sometimes it might even be worse because sometimes, at least working for someone else, you can go home on the weekends. You don't have to worry about payroll and other things. And so, you know, if you are going to put yourself in that position, it's always better to be an entrepreneur. And, you know, entrepreneur by my definition and by others is someone who does two things. They, you know, have the idea, and most of us get that part right. It's the idea and the, you know, the ingenuity part, but it's also someone who makes the investment in that idea to make it successful. And that investment has to be time, it has to be money, and it has to be resources. And more often than not, when you see businesses that fail or struggle or people who are, you know, stressed out and all that kind of stuff, it's when sometimes the monetary investment hasn't been there. And so that's sort of the role that I feel, or the gap that I feel, to transition people from having a business that runs them to having a business that they run.
You know, that's, you know, everything that you're saying, I think I'm right on board with. It's awesome to hear it. It's very refreshing to hear someone actually say it and be real about it. So I want to hear from you, because you actually consult other businesses on how they can be profitable and successful and all that good stuff. But like we said, this is Boot to Boom, right? So we talk about bootstrapping to booming. So I want to hear from you. What was your L's? Tell me your L's. What were some of your losses that you had to take? You know, we've talked a lot about the W's and wins you had.
Yeah.
What are some of the losses?
My biggest two losses is my advice is every single person, and Ava Laura, so you mentioned this on the show yesterday from a counseling and a personal perspective, but from a business perspective, you know, they say every attorney needs an attorney. Every psychologist and every attorney needs an attorney, because you don't have the insight to manage your case the way someone outside would. Every psychologist needs a psychologist. You can't hear that kind of counselor. You can't hear that kind of heaviness and take on that spiritual weight from everybody and not have a release. And every business consultant needs a business consultant. And I give people advice all the time. I get a lot of people who come to me and they say, you know, I've got like so many great ideas and I want to do them all at the same time. And, you know, they're all going to be successful. And then I ask, well, how much are you have to invest in any of them? And sometimes it's like, well, I don't have any money to invest in any of them, but they're great ideas and I know they're going to succeed. And I know they're going to succeed because I'm passionate. And as if somehow all the other people are not passionate, and that's why, you know, that's you know, nobody fail. Everybody who has failed because they weren't passionate enough. It's not, you know, it's not really logical. Yeah. But yeah, but it was relatively soon after I had started the company. I think this was 2003. I got an opportunity to launch a complimentary office. You know, I was doing business consulting. It made sense to do this other tax office, you know, complimentary services. We were doing accounting and business management and helping scale. Why not have a complimentary company that does the taxes? But, you know, I had a small staff. I think I maybe only had 10 people on staff at the time. But I was spread too thin. I went from, I mean, I wasn't, you know, completely lucrative yet because I was still pretty new. But I remember I went from having $30,000 in the bank on December 31st to having negative $40,000 by March 31st. And it was because advice that I had literally given the month before I realized I was like $40,000 in the negative is you need to wait until you have solid footing with one business before you have another business. And I didn't see it because I didn't have an advisor to look at it, which is the advice that I would get. If you don't have outside eyes to see things, then you miss things that are even that you even know. And so That was a major loss for me, but it was very early in my career. I think I was, like I said, it was 2-3 years after starting the business. And the second one was just I had invested too much in a client's business. They were, it was a construction company. They were really, really successful. I had, long story short, they brought me in. They didn't have a name yet. And so they were like, how soon can we be millionaires? And it was like, well, until you get a name, you can't incorporate. Until you incorporate, you can't get insurance. Until you get insurance, you can't bid jobs. Until you get a name, we can't even advertise for you. You're going to need, you're going to need maybe, so I gave them a 3 to 6 month timeline before we would even be able to get traction on a marketing plan, let alone some of the infrastructure that we were creating around like staff and policies and procedures. So again, it's a holistic approach to setting someone up in business. It was 3 guys, 2 guys left in month 3 because they were not millionaires and they went back to their jobs making $12 an hour. The other one stayed and was like, I'm moving forward with this. In month 4, I got them a contract to build 40 houses, or him a contract to build 40 houses, because the marketing we did, I did really, really paid off. And then he was like, okay, don't leave me because it's great, but now how do I do this? Because he only knew how to build houses. He didn't know how to like run a company. And so it was great. But one of the challenges, and it's why I now do a little bit of education with it, is because everything happened so quickly. And so what he thought was just effortlessly, he was just like, wow, Nataki just thinks of something and does it and it works. He didn't realize that there was, and there were very calculated, strategic business practices that went into every decision. It's you're evaluating risk, you're evaluating accounting, you're evaluating just a number of different things with every single decision. But because he thought it was so easy, at one point he was like, well, I want to start making the decisions. It's my company. You've been kind of running it for me. And I joked that I think every decision he made was, what would be the opposite of what Nataki would do? And unfortunately, he began to run his company into the ground. And so we had grown that company from, and it's actually one of the videos on my website, we had grown that company from him being a handyman into a 7-figure company. I obtained the contractor's license for that company. We were licensed and operating in 3 states. We had several crews. We were working on commercial projects and banks and all kinds of things. But he just started making every single decision that was, I was like, you couldn't flip a coin and make this many consecutive bad decisions. The one thing he did listen to me is that he set money aside. And so eventually he ended up, that he had the company for several years. He eventually decided to not do construction anymore. And he went to Mexico and actually opened a chain of personal training studios. So he's completely out of that business. But at least he, took the money because that is one thing. I make sure that all of
something.
Yeah. But for me, it was, getting to, the loss there was, I had invested cash in the business and it really had the potential to even survive the recession of 2008. We had external factors that hit the business because a lot of our commercial projects, again, were banks and banks primarily. And in 2008, if you remember, a lot of banks were closing down, and let alone, so they were being investigated and shut down. They were not trying to build open new institutions, and then several were merging because and being investigated. And so it was good that we had diversified the revenue stream, but the L there was just making sure, even though the idea was good, even though my role in it was good, but I said before, and this is advice for everyone, you really have to intimately know not just what people do when things are good, but what people do when things are not going so good before you go into business. You need to know them intimately. You need to know them, better than their mama knows them, better than all that. Because, right. Because
we actually talked about that. We had a show where we really talked about that, and in terms of deciding how, if you want to partner with somebody in business, and what types of partners would you have. But yeah, so I mean, speaking of that, I mean, I guess you being a spokesperson, you are, I don't know if that's a partnership or that is a working relationship, but one of the things that I'm definitely clear about, and it sounds like definitely from your background, is that you are passionate about supporting Black businesses. So how did you get more intimately involved in that, and why did you decide to do that?
Yeah, so in 2015, there was a group of us that was meeting, and we were talking about the genocide against Black people that happens with what's called police violence. And we were talking about how to resolve that problem and other issues, the health issues in the Black community, every problem you can think of. And, you'll hear me say this a lot, and I said it at the Power Networking Conference. Every issue that you can think of that plagues the Black community has an economic undercurrent. Everything from domestic violence to, the littering and the conditions, the mental health issues, everything has an economic undercurrent. The food deserts and obesity and just everything. And so we were like, what really gets to the heart of the economic problem? And it was where and how we spend our money as the large part, but also how we even see money, how we value things. I'm going to pick on you a little bit. Like I heard you all talking about the Tesla, which is fine in some sense, but why do we value a Tesla? Who told us it was valuable? Who told us it was something to strive for? Maybe, as a consideration, there's a car made in Ghana called the Katanka car that's supposed to be like an amazing car that doesn't really break down. And so, there are different things that are kind of put out in the community, and they're always about resources that take money and wealth out of our community and give them immediately to someone else. And we end up with stuff rather than things that really propagate wealth in our community. And so we looked at what could we do. And so the Let's Buy Black 365 movement actually began as a way to shift, not so much shift, but offer an alternative. And instead of, we hear a lot of movements that are sort of preaching at people and, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. But, there are people like me and others who very much, it's not, we hear these things like, oh, it's hard to buy Black, I don't know where Black resources are. I don't know how to find good quality Black-owned businesses and products. And, one of the other things I said at PNC is I'll say 90 to be safe, but maybe 95% of the goods and services and businesses that I patronize are Black owned. And it wasn't hard. I've only lived in the DC metro area for 5 years. And when I moved here, I didn't know any resources. I found these on my own through talking to people, through, getting offline. I'm a big technology person too, Jessica, but, having real conversations with people and really, thinking about what I need and just seeking out resources. And so we came up with the idea of having a crowdsourced business directory because what's always happened in the past is that people have always had to give us things. It's like, we're waiting for someone, well, give me a list of Black-owned businesses and then maybe I'll do it. And that's one approach. But we said, well, what if we were actually proactive enough? Like, what if Black people believed in ourselves enough to say, I'm going to take the 5 Black businesses that I know and the 10 Black businesses that you know, and each person just puts individually what we know in one centralized place so that we can aggregate our collective knowledge in a way that helps each other. And so the directory is there. Again, the content is there from individuals like you, taking the couple of businesses and making sure the people around you have access to your knowledge bank that's shared that way. So you can be a business owner and add your own business, but we also ask you to add at least 5 others when you do that, because we want it to be not just about the self-promotion. So, in networking, as Dr. Fraser always talks about, networking isn't just about talking about yourself ad nauseum. It's about creating relationships and always spreading resources and information and doing it in such a way that you're always being helpful to others. And so we, that ideology is integrated into this, and then other things were layered onto it. So, we've done campaigns like the Take Action for Flint campaign, where we sent water from a Black-owned bottled water company, toiletries from a Black-owned toiletries company. We sent clothing. All of these were sent from 100% Black resources, because the other side of it is we don't often see models where we're using all Black resources to achieve things. And not knocking anybody who sent resources to Flint, but one of the things that we talked about is we have to have ways that we can be more conscientious, because there are companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi and that own like Dasani and Aquafina that have committed all kinds of acts of genocide against Black people, yet we're giving them money to give water to Flint to help Black people who are facing genocide. So, we got to be really mindful of how we actually even engage proactively. And we have to take the mindset of, I need to be informed. And it's not enough to just say, well, I didn't know. We're in the digital age. So, it's a Google search away to look up, I put boycott blank in front of any company just to see why people may have issues with them before I decide to spend money with them. Somebody was like, wow, I was in a grocery store. I was going to buy some hummus, and I picked up a brand and I Googled it. Actually, I was looking at the ingredients, but when I Googled it, I found out that company was owned by Pepsi, which is a company that I said I would never give a dime to. And so when I saw that, I didn't purchase the product. And someone was like, wow, you actually did that right in the grocery store? I'm like, why do you have a smartphone?
That's what a phone is. Yeah.
If you're not going to use it.
That's what I'm talking
you're
about.
Not going to use it.
That's what I'm talking about. So it's not necessarily that, oh yeah, we need to use digital media, to promote our businesses, which I advocate for, yes. But at the same time, we have a wealth of information, and media is the big piece of it, right? A lot of these things are happening. We have access to all of this information right in our phones. So that's where I get the whole, you should be up on technology. You should be utilizing technology, because you can no longer say we don't have a voice, or we can't, our narrative is not, wait a minute, but what are you saying? How are you utilizing the resources, everything that you have in front of you? Even the website, right, is buyblack365.com. Yeah, you can access it where you
are. Buyblack365.com. Yes.
Buy Black.
Right behind her.
And
allithies.com, actually. So thank you very much.
But Nataki, what I love about what you said is that, a lot of times we'll make that decision based on the cost. This one is cheaper. Let me get the one that's cheaper. This one is on sale. Where you chose to be more conscious and say, no, let me buy the one that's, not creating genocide for my people, or, or not, or that's a little bit more positive or proactive, or that's giving to my community. So I really like that approach, because I think that offers a perspective that most people don't even think about.
Right.
Because we're kind of just on autopilot. So we'll just buy, or I just happen to like this company, or my mama used this company and my grandmama used this company, so I'm going to do it too.
Right. And the reality is that day I really wanted hummus. I don't know why. I was like, I need hummus. I crave often. But so I ended up buying a can of organic chickpeas and some lemon juice, and I made my own hummus for like $2. So that was cheaper than the $5 hummus I was gonna buy, and I got like twice as much. So it's not often that it's like, oh, you know, and I mean that gets into a whole nother thing. But I have a whole thing outside of this on the intersection between some of our health choices and some of our financial choices, and how financial prosperity and health prosperity really intersect. But often eating at home and eating non-processed foods and all these different kinds of things is the cheaper way to go. I always tell people, a bag of potato chips averages about $25 a pound if you were to actually weight it that way, whereas even organic potatoes at the most cost $3 a pound. So you could literally, feed yourself for weeks on potatoes, as opposed to what you spend in a vending machine buying chips. Here.
I have 6 kids. I'm like, you better get one of them potatoes and put it in there and bake it. You want some potato chips? There you go. Put it in there and bake it. So we have a couple of questions from our audience. So we're going to do kind of a rapid fire because we're coming close to the end of time. So we got about a good, what is this, like 5 questions. So we're going to rapid fire through this. Some of the questions. Why do you think people want to start a Black business? Why do you think they want to start a Black business?
I mean, I think there are a number of, an infinite number of reasons why people want to start a business. I think some of the more noble reasons are to help your family, to help your community, to create a legacy. Hopefully you're starting it in such a way that it's not chained to you, so that it can be passed on from generation to generation. And you can't pass down a business until you put that infrastructure in place where you can be removed, it can still function. So, I mean, I think those are some of the best reasons to start the kinds of businesses that have the ability to build this community through jobs and politics and all these other things.
Okay. And the next one is, have you done any Black work outside of the U.S. and what was it like?
Any Black work? Huh, that's interesting.
That's,
we're going to take that as Black business.
Okay. Well, oh, okay. I was, well, again, I haven't really worked with Black-owned companies yet. I'm looking to hopefully change that soon. I think more Black people are really recognizing that, like, the company that in my same field that's 5 years ago is now like they've got 4 offices and I'm still my 1 office. Like, I mean, people are really seeing the difference, and I think people are, just like we're having this mass awakening about, the conditions in the U.S. that we've been living in forever. People are kind of waking up like, wait a second, it's racist here. Like, I think there's also an awakening amongst business owners. Like, this is not getting me where I need to go. And I have had more Black people inquire about, how do I position myself in such a way that I can gather the resources so I can come to someone like you who can really set me up with everything I need. So, it's nice that people are at least having the dialogues, whereas once upon a time, it was again looked at like, I don't need no help. I'm just going to work really, really hard and stay up and study and research and Google and YouTube my way to success, which is, not sustainable.
Yeah, love it. So I think that probably maybe segues into the next question. Are Black owners still negative towards each other?
Are Black, I'm sorry?
Black business owners.
Are Black owners still negative towards each other?
I don't know. I have a personal and professional approach to life that I only surround myself with positive people. So the people who might be negative, I'm sure are out there, but I don't interact with any of them. Even though my clients may not look like me, there are a lot of other Black entrepreneurs who I interact with. I'm constantly referring people to Black-owned businesses, you know, and it's not always, you know, sometimes like with New Business Solutions, we have a really aggressive referral program. So when people refer people, you know, I give financial incentives, but I refer people to other businesses regardless of whether they're financial incentives or not. This is a quality, good, Black-owned the company, and I want other people to know about it. And so I tend to interact, and, you know, for people who've attended the Power Networking Conference, you know, that is positivity. I was about to say on steroids, but that has a negative connotation. I mean, that's just positivity on just, and I don't know another way to phrase it, on such a degree, to the 10th degree,
on a
to the
higher level
exponent that you know, it really, you know, puts you around people where I mean, I'm a firm believer that you absorb energy, and not in some kind of metaphysical way that some people can't or don't relate to, but you absorb energy from anything you do. And if you're around negative people, you are going to feel negative results. And when you're around positive people, you feel positive results. So, you know, for anyone who experiences that, change your circle.
Love it. I love it. And I think one thing that sticks out to me that George Fraser said is, you know, yes, buy Black, but take everybody's money. So
he says, buy Black, sell to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a great point too for businesses that are really considering, you know, what is your take on even considering that I'm a Black-owned businesses that only works with Black people? You know, is that a sustainable model? What do you think about that?
I think it can be. I think you have to do it strategically. I mean, my personal opinion and my professional opinion are a little bit different when it comes to cultural items. I have issues with people who take African cultural things and kind of put them out to people outside of our community who then take them and exploit them. So I think that's a little bit different. But for a general household item, you know, why do you need your you know, generic white T-shirt to only go to Black people? Like there are some things that are universal, universally needed that aren't culturally specific. And I mean, and with culturally specific, you know, I always tell the story. I belly dance, and it was just kind of interesting. But I went to an Indian festival called Diwali, and there was a group that had signups for belly dance, and I rush over to the table. I'm about to sign up, and the woman nicely takes the pen out of my hand and is like, "Oh no, this is not for you." And some people would be offended and be like, "She's racist," whatever. But why can't they have an Indian group that's for Indian women that they don't want someone else to learn? That's, you know, I mean, it is North African dance, and they're actually technically copying something that's African, but that is something that they've decided that they that they want to do later. Yeah. But I mean, you know, to the point that I can respect a group saying, this is something that we see as part of our culture, and we're not going to let interlopers, to again quote Dr. Fraser, interlopers to come in and exploit it and take it out of our community.
Wow.
Yeah. So the next question is, how do we teach? Oh, I'm sorry. How do we teach the young to buy Black?
That's a great question, and so a couple of things. You can see behind me there are a couple of logos here. So on Let's Buy Black 365, the crowdsourced business directory is there, but when you sign up, you actually get access to Connect, which is a Black social network where you can do anything that you would do on any other social network, and engage with people who are like-minded, not just about where we buy things, but I mean, really what we're buying is an extension of the things that are happening in our lives. So it's engaging with Black people on every level. A lot of people are like, oh, is it all entrepreneurs? It's like, well, most of the people are not entrepreneurs. It's just people who want to be around, you know, other like-minded people. The other Black social network, Abibi to Mikasa, is very similar. And in both places, there are a number of resources about how families build. And on the TV show that we have coming out, which is why I have this nice set to to be in front of here, we actually have a youth entrepreneur who started, I'm going to brag a little bit because she's a relative, but my niece started a vegan cooking show for kids that she wrote, scripted, and directed and starred in when she was 3. Actually, she wrote it when she was 3, but she was 4 when she recorded.
Love it.
And
Love
she is absolutely brilliant. She's going to be leading our youth entrepreneurs segment, and part of that is going to feature how children can be involved in, excuse me, starting businesses. We're going to co-teach something on saving and investing for children. And one of the first segments you'll be able to get more information on is just how adults can really benefit their children on an infinite level by taking the approach that there's no, I mean, we're not talking about sex or, murders, things like that, but general conversations about money, about all these things should happen in front of children. Some parents want to shelter, like, you don't need to know how much money I make. And, this phrase, grown folks stuff. We won't get into that. I have some personal feelings about that phrase. But it really, it creates a generation, it forces a generational divide that doesn't need to be there. I mean, we already have enough issues with generational divides, but when you start separating things into grown folk stuff and kid stuff, then you have more breakdowns. In my household, in my parents' household, everything was kind of general open communication. And so, and people outside of our community tend to do that too. You have young people in other communities who, as long as they can read, write, and sit still for long enough, they'll be in a board meeting, or they'll be in a business meeting, or they'll be at a lecture and all these different kinds of things. And I grew up in that kind of a household. So, when that happens, you get children like my niece who are so used to seeing everyone in her family be entrepreneurial. In fact, that's how she got her website. We were having a family meeting and she was participating, and even at 4, she had great ideas that we were like, dang, how is this 4-year-old? She was like, how come I don't have a website? And so on a whim, I just registered amakanban.com, and she was like, okay, good. Because she was literate. So she put she speaks 4 languages. So she put up a blog in 4 languages. She was like, I'm going to create a show. And so that's what you get when you have children who are engaged. And so if you start to think of your children being as intelligent as adults and having the capacity, and all they need is the platform, and stop putting a barrier. And then also, as a parent, I would also say, don't be afraid to let your children just be children. And so, you see those scenarios where people, like, if the child moves over here, stop moving over there, stop doing that, stay here. Why are you doing? Okay, I'm shaking my computer. But, it's like, why is it bad that the child is standing over there? Like, why do they have to, like, when you get people who just bark orders at the kids all the time, it actually, rather than fosters, great children, it actually creates people who can't think outside the box, who are less likely to be successful, who are more inclined to retreat and do things that are, it actually puts them more in an employee mindset. And actually it puts them more in a factory worker mindset, because it teaches them you're not supposed to think for yourself. You're not supposed to think independently. You're not supposed to create. You're not supposed to do anything unless someone tells you to do it. And it actually does the opposite. So when you're talking about investing, when you're talking about entrepreneurship and children, the best thing to do is have conversations with them and figure out how you can support them as much as possible in letting them blossom.
I love that. I love that. I think that's a great note to end on, because really what you're talking about is how to create an entrepreneurial mindset, which is, where we spend a lot of time. And actually our guest last week brought up a good point. And he learned this from one of his Jewish counterparts who had a very successful business, that when you have a business, he he had offices in one of his buildings right next to him that, you know, he had his children, his 2 girls actually had their own offices. So they got used to what it was like to sit in the office behind a desk in their own office with a name on the wall. So they understood what it was like. They could see, you know, daddy meeting with people and how you make decisions and, you know, all of that thing. So really modeling that behavior.
Yes.
So I think, you know, you're absolutely right about that in terms of, we talk about mindset all the time, but a lot of mindset is simply modeling. And that's why we go back to, again, why it's so important to have mentors and coaches and all these people that can help you, because they can model that behavior and really work on your mindset.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Nataki. This has been awesome. Just really quickly, how can our viewers get in touch with you? How can they get more information about you? How can they get more information about Let's Buy Black 365?
Yeah, so Let's Buy Black 365 has 2 apps. You can go to letsbuyblack365.com. Again, don't forget the let's at the beginning, as in let's do it together. Letsbuyblack365.com. I'm pointing to it if you can see it over my head. That is letsbuyblack365.com/mobile will give you access to both apps. The one that is the crowdsourced directory, and then also Connect, which is the social network. You can also go to newbusinesssolutions.com. Again, that's new as in Nubian, or new as in numerous, businesssolutions.com. Don't forget there are 3 consecutive S's in the middle. That is my real assistant, although it's not her real picture on there. So Monique will say hi to you. She didn't want to put her picture on. She didn't have to. But that is my assistant who will pop up. But you can look through that. You can take the quiz to see, are you running your business or is your business running you, and see some of the kinds of businesses I've worked with. I will offer your viewers a free consultation. You can schedule an appointment with me if you're actually ready to step into growing your business. There's a self-scheduler at the bottom left side of the website where you can schedule a free consultation with me for 30 minutes. And yeah, you can go from there. So the nice thing about all of my clients is I don't charge by the hour. I charge flat rates. And so my clients don't have to like nickel and dime or anything like that. They get full access to my calendar. They can call me anytime. And it just creates an environment where they really can flourish and not have to worry about, all those other kinds of things. And so I'll invite your listeners to get access to my calendar to explore the possibilities.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Really, really good information. I hope you all paid attention. I know we have more questions. We are so out of time. That just means y'all really wanted to do this because y'all got all these questions.
I know.
If you want to email me the questions, or if you want to send me the questions somehow, I'll definitely answer questions for people who have them, and go from there. You can also post them for Monique right on the website. Again, there's a pop-up that says, do you want to chat or have anything? She's not in the office now, but you can post them and we'll get them, and we'll reply to you, especially if you put your name and phone number, just so we can get to your questions. Yeah, definitely we'll do that for you.
Awesome. Thank you much
Amazing.
for offering that. See,
Our Blacknificent.
Thank you all for watching tonight. We hope you enjoyed Boot to Boom. We look forward to seeing you next week at I'm like, what time? God gracious. Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Remember, we are here every week to get your PayPal popping, your business booming, and your life and relationships to explode. See you guys next week. Hope you have a Blacknificent week. Bye. Blacknificent.
Your producer is awesome. I love the graphics. We've had like 4